Have you ever wondered if the fight for equality was never really about equality at all? What if behind every demand for fairness lies a hidden desire for control? What if equality was just the polite introduction, the first step towards something far more powerful? Machiavelli warned us long ago, the most dangerous power is the one that hides behind virtue. And now, as society bends under the weight of new cultural movements, he would ask, are we witnessing the rise of justice or the silent ascent of a new ruling class? From boardrooms to bedrooms, from politics to pop culture, women have claimed their seat at every table. But is this truly a balance of power or a quiet, calculated takeover? Be careful how you answer. Because in this war, the battlefield is not fought with weapons, it's fought with influence. And the victors are not the loudest voices. Welcome to Thinking War. Since the earliest cries for equality echoed through history, one question has remained dangerously unanswered. Is equality truly the end goal, or merely the first strategic move in a larger game of power? From the suffragette movements to modern feminism, the rallying cry has always been the same: equality, justice, fairness. But as history unfolded, something remarkable happened. With every gain in rights, with every barrier broken, the conversation quietly shifted. Equality was no longer enough. Now the conversation is about control, about dominance, about rewriting the very fabric of society. Machiavelli would say this was inevitable. In his world, power is never given. It is taken subtly, carefully through influence and strategy. He would argue that the greatest power is not the power that stands in the open, but the power that operates unseen, behind the curtain. Simone de Beauvoir, however, would stand defiantly against this cynical view. To her, the fight for equality was never about domination. It was about liberation from centuries of silent oppression. She would ask, when women have been silenced for generations, is it wrong for them to finally raise their voices? And so, we arrive at the most uncomfortable truth of all. Are we still fighting for balance, or have we already crossed the threshold into a new kind of dominance? Is this justice, or a quiet revolution of power hidden beneath the language of equality? Today, we will first listen to Machiavelli's views and defense of the subject. Then we will turn to Simone de Beauvoir and look at the subject from her perspective. Finally, we will analyze today's data and decide who is right. Now it is Machiavelli's turn. Niccolò Machiavelli never believed that power required a throne or a crown. In his eyes, the greatest power was always the one that moved unseen, pulling the strings from the shadows while others foolishly celebrated their hollow victories. The most dangerous ruler, he wrote, is the one who does not appear to rule at all. If Machiavelli were alive today, he would look upon the modern world and smile, not at the spectacle of women demanding equality, but at their mastery of a far more potent weapon: subtle dominance. He would argue that women have understood something men have long forgotten. Influence is more enduring than authority. While men chased crowns and titles, women shaped the very minds of those who wore them. Through beauty, persuasion, emotional leverage, and social control, women have long ruled not from the front lines, but from behind closed doors. Machiavelli would point to history. Cleopatra didn't lead armies, she bent emperors to her will. Catherine de' Medici didn't fight wars, she arranged them with a whisper. Today, the modern woman no longer needs to ask for power. She commands it through culture, media, and silent influence. And what of equality? Machiavelli would smirk at the word. To him, it is simply the camouflage under which a larger conquest unfolds. He would say, do not listen to what is asked, watch what is quietly taken. In his view, the fight for equality was the most brilliant political maneuver in history. Not a demand for fairness, but a calculated redefinition of power itself. In Machiavelli's eyes, the question isn't whether women want equality. It's whether they've already claimed far more than that, and no one dared to notice. While Machiavelli speaks of power hidden in the shadows, Simone de Beauvoir steps into the light, unapologetic, defiant, and unafraid. To her, the suggestion that women secretly desire dominance is nothing but another clever tactic used to shame and silence their rightful demands. She asks the most dangerous question of all. When you have been denied your voice for centuries, is it ambition or simple survival to finally speak? Beauvoir believed that women have never sought to dominate, they have only sought to exist without permission. For too long, women's identities were defined by the men they belonged to, the families they served, and the societies that confined them. Even the language of power was twisted against them. When men fight for influence, it is called ambition. When women do the same, it is called manipulation. Beauvoir would argue that this isn't a battle for control, it's a long overdue correction of a history steeped in injustice. She saw through the narratives that painted strong women as dangerous and independent women as unnatural. In her eyes, the true fear was never that women would dominate men. It was that women would finally stop needing them. A woman who no longer asks for permission, she declared, is the greatest threat to any system built on her silence. And so she challenges the modern world. Do you call this a power grab, or is it simply the reclaiming of what was stolen? Is this really domination, or the final breaking of ancient chains? Beauvoir believed that equality was never the end goal, because equality was a condition that should have existed from the start. What we are witnessing now, she would say, is not a revolution of dominance, but the long-delayed arrival of balance. And if that feels like power to those who have always held it, perhaps that says more about the world we built than the one we're becoming. Machiavelli surveys the field with a knowing smirk. He sees the modern cries for equality not as the end of the war, but as its most brilliant maneuver. He would say, "No conquest is greater than the one achieved without declaring war." To him, women have already seized the highest ground, cultural dominance. Through art, media, social dynamics, and quiet persuasion, they shape the values of nations while claiming to seek only fairness. He asks, if this is truly about equality, why does it feel like a throne is being quietly erected in its place? But opposite him, Simone de Beauvoir stands firm, her voice cutting through centuries of accusation. She laughs at the suggestion that women are masterminds of manipulation. To her, this accusation is nothing new, just the latest in a long history of dismissing female ambition as dangerous and independence as unnatural. She fires back. Perhaps what you call dominance is merely the sound of women speaking freely for the first time. Machiavelli sees behind every act of liberation a hidden strategy, a subtle, relentless pursuit of control. Beauvoir sees in every accusation of dominance a desperate attempt to maintain a crumbling patriarchy. And you, standing at the center of this war, must answer the ultimate question. Is this the final step toward balance, or the opening act of a new dominance? Have women claimed their rightful place, or have they quietly rewritten the rules of the game? This is not a question for tomorrow. It is a battle unfolding now in every home, every relationship, every corner of society. Look around. The war of ideas is no longer confined to dusty bookshelves or academic debates. It plays out daily in boardrooms, bedrooms, courtrooms, and cultural battlegrounds. The rise of the strong independent woman archetype is not just a cultural trend. It's a signal flare marking the shift of power. From viral social media mantras like "Who needs men?" to the celebration of queen energy, the language of dominance is no longer hidden, it's openly embraced. Divorce rates rise. Marriage rates fall. Entire industries cater to the "I don't need anyone" lifestyle. And yet, loneliness surges to epidemic levels. Machiavelli would grin at this spectacle. He would say, "The greatest conquest is the one in which the conquered thank you for it." And perhaps, in the smiling faces of those celebrating freedom, he would see an empire being built, not with armies, but with cultural control. But Beauvoir would rise against this cynical view. She would declare that what Machiavelli calls dominance is simply the long-suppressed breath of freedom finally being exhaled. She would ask, if women finally choose their paths without fear, why is that mistaken for conquest? And yet, the data cannot be ignored. Fewer families are formed, fewer children are born, and more people than ever describe their lives with one word: empty. So we must ask, are we living in the age of equality, or witnessing the silent rise of a new form of dominance? The future isn't something waiting to happen. It's being shaped right now, in the words we use, the relationships we form, and the power we surrender without ever noticing.